Welcome to another episode of the Surfcast Podcast. We're going to jump right into things this week. We've got one of the more popular, regular occurring episodes that we have. It's the old Gear We Use and So Should You installment. So we've got some pretty good stuff lined up here, and off-season's a great time to talk gear, especially the stuff we were just using this season. Remember last episode, we started doing follow-ups, though, sort of recap of the new stuff we've been using, a little update on where we're at. And this encompasses the end of the fishing season, so we can pretty quick hop in. Last time I talked about the grinds pouches, which are the little pouches you put in your lip when you're out there fishing with the caffeine in them, and I loved them at the time, and I am still using them. Even in the off-season, when I've been out ice fishing, when I was doing my fishing in the fall, the beginning of the holdovers, I was using them, so I still love them. Still recommend them, and
cool.
Be getting more for the season for sure. And the other item that I talked about last time on the new product list for me was the Simms Splash Cast Surf Top. And again, I fished it right into the end of the season, into colder weather, which was a good test of it, especially for me, different coats. And I'm such a fan of some of my other warmer coats that I used. And I still absolutely love that thing. I was very happy with it. I won't say that it's the perfect top, as I don't think there's quite one out there yet, but it's getting there. It's for a lighter weight top that's going to block the wind, has a gigantic pocket that can hold everything you could possibly need for 5 trips. I was very happy with it, so that gives me a thumbs up as well on that one. So what do you got?
Huge pocket. So I think last time around I had the Seagar Smackdown braid. Definitely still a fan of it. I was sitting here trying to think about what I was going to say about it. I don't have anything really else to say than what I said in the last episode. I still think it's one of the most premium most premium braids I've ever used. I think it's worth the cost, and I think it probably is a lot tougher than many would think, given all of its other statistics in terms of its thickness and what it's made of and all that stuff. So very happy still with that. Will it be what I buy and put on my reels when I refresh everything this spring? I'm not sure. I'm always looking for the perfect braid, and like you were saying about the perfect surf top, I don't think there is such a thing. So I'm always looking for something new. So we'll see what I end up doing. We'll see. And then the other thing that I had last time was the Z-Man Mullitron. And the Mullitron is amazing, and I am still a huge fan of it. And I actually ended up using it a lot in Florida in November. And I was very, very happy with how it performed there. I hooked up with quite a few tarpon on it. I landed 1 or 2 small ones, if I remember correctly, although I can't quite remember. But if you blasted it out there, they were on it. I mean, they were on it. And a couple of times I had hookups with fish when other things didn't work. And I've heard some other anglers in the surf up here in New England who have been using it, and they feel that that's what they're experiencing with stripers, that it is pulling fish when all other things do not work. So that's a pretty good testimonial. I think it's great. I think it's a cool lure. It's fun to fish. There's something about it that's really fun.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'll agree. There was a fun factor there for sure. It's cool. There's not a lot of that. At least for me, there's not a lot of lures where I throw on. I'm like, yeah, this is fun to fish.
Yeah, I think it's really fun. I think they're cool. I think they're so realistic, and the fish hit them super hard, and there's a simplicity to them, but, your hookup to landing ratio is really high because of the hook, et cetera, et cetera. All the things we talked about last time. Highly recommended. So, do you want to go first, or do you want me to go first, Toby?
I'll let you get started. Yeah, you go ahead with it. Yeah.
Sure. So, again, just to remind everybody, we're going to give you 2 newer products, and then we're going to give you a classic product. So I'm going to start with the first product I should say, is connected to the second product, but I'm only going to do the first one. So the first one is from a brand of something that's already been mentioned today, and that's Simms. I have been using the Simms Flyweight Vibram Sole boot this past season. Now, this boot, right on the website, it says, in disclaimer letters, this boot is not designed for rugged use. It will not last as long. If you do not want your boots to fall apart, you should use a different boot. If you fish really hard, you want a different boot. Blah, blah, blah. And I bought them anyways. I bought them anyways because I looked at the statistics of what they were, and I felt like they might really work for one specific purpose. And that's how light they are. They are crazy, crazy light. And I have been having a little bit of foot trouble ever since I tore my meniscus and went through that whole process and, got out of shape, etc. Having a little bit of a foot problem, I was having trouble wearing wetsuit booties when I was wetsuiting, which is what my dominant footwear usage was, where I was using felt-soled booties when I was doing my wetsuiting. There's nothing underneath your foot. Nothing. I mean, it's virtually nothing, right? So the rocks cut in, anything that's sharp, a piece of wood, let alone, a shell or something like that. So I saw these and I was like, you know what, this could be a really good option. The sole is pretty thin. They're very flexible. They're very, very flexible. They're nothing like wader boots that you use traditionally from any other company. Even the old flyweights, which I have too from Sims, they're not even really like that. The old flyweights are like a really rugged hiking boot. These are almost like a sneaker. They really are very close to a sneaker. They're soft. There's actually some cushioning, and they're very, very light. They're very, very flexible, and I have found that they work really excellent in conjunction with corkers. Because the problem with them, of course, is that you cannot put a rugged stud in the sole. They're not thick enough. Mm-hmm. And so that was the primary usage I got out of them, was that I wanted them for wetsuiting, and they worked perfectly. And they've held up excellent, no problem. But what I ended up using them for actually most of the season was on the sand beaches. And I didn't expect that. Again, coming off my meniscus, I was still having a little bit of trouble with knee stability. I couldn't use the Hodgman neoprenes that I normally use. I needed just a little bit of something underneath my foot, and these worked awesome. They're super lightweight, so you can hike for miles in them, and it definitely makes a huge difference. They're flexible in the sand. I don't like the hard wader boot on the sand where you're like constantly digging in. These are much softer, and I felt like they were a good bridge between a normal boot and those Hodgmans. They do not keep the sand out. There's not a wader boot that keeps the sand out besides those Hodgmans. They just don't exist. The sand's going to get in. These do pretty damn well, though. I was impressed. So they're stupid expensive. They're a little bit of a niche product. But I think if you're someone who's wetsuiting, who really isn't happy with your wader boots, but you definitely can't use a wader suit bootie, and you're still going to use corkers anyways, this is definitely the boot for you. I would buy them again in a heartbeat, for sure. And I'm going to, actually, probably. I'm probably going to back up pair. So,
all right. Well, mine's going to go a completely different direction, both on type and price or cost for sure. I'm going with it's a tool. They're made both by Spro and Gamakatsu, who are part of the same family of brands. So a lot of the Spro and Gamakatsu tools interchange. They brand them. They change the color, and in this case, Gamakatsu's got a black handle and Spro's got a green handle. And what it is ceramic braid scissors. Now, the concept is nothing terribly new. They're 4-inch long scissors. It's when I first started using braid back in the around 2000-ish range, somewhere around there. We would use little kids' safety scissors, basically, to cut our braid, because your standard pliers couldn't cut it. And I considered them disposable. I bought 10 of them at the beginning of the season. They'd get corroded. I'd toss them. But they were great for what they were intended. Nothing else. They'd cut the braid. They'd cut your mono. Good to go. I kind of got away from it for quite a while, where a lot of the pliers that I was using had decent enough cutters to cut braid. But the downfall of that is that eventually those cutters on the pliers, no matter what pair they are, whether you're spending $6 on a disposable pair of pliers to a couple $100 of top end titaniums, eventually it's gonna just no longer cut the braid. So I happened to get a pair of the Spro ceramic braid scissors this spring, and I was like, give them a shot. Like, it was amazing how well they cut through the braid. They're small enough, so I've actually gone back to something I did 20 plus years ago when I'm in the surf, in that giant pocket on the front of my jacket that I'm using, whether it's a Sims or the Stormer. In goes one of these pairs of braid scissors, and I can easily cut the braid. I don't fight with it. I mean, that's the biggest thing, that it's snip and done, whereas my pliers, I'm fighting and trying to get it, and it just never works. So, the ceramic side of it's nice because they're not going to corrode. There's nothing but ceramic and plastic in these things, so
awesome.
Perfect for the saltwater environment.
Yeah.
And the ceramic teeth, they've got a little serration, so I think they cut it even better. So, for a couple of bucks, you've got something that's going to cut braid. I mean, I used the one pair last year the entire season, and from May till November, it was cutting the braid just as well, and I cut a lot of pieces of braid.
So Toby, I just got my hands on Hoagie's new charter grade needlefish, one of the plugs they launched last season as part of their new Hook One platform. This thing is extremely well built. It swims great, and it's specifically built around a single belly hook and a tail flag, which I know you and I both strongly prefer. I'll tell you, I've heard nothing but good things from other anglers throughout the entire Striper Coast.
That's right. I've been hearing a lot of good things about their needlefish as well. I know it's got heavy-duty stainless steel through wire, so it's tuna-proof, and it comes with VMC hooks, premium split rings, and matching hand-tied bucktail flags. So essentially, it's got the works, all the things that you'd expect from Hoagie.
Definitely. Plus, the recent study from the state of Massachusetts showed you can reduce release mortality by as much as 7% by ditching that rear hook, as you and I have talked about already on the podcast. So this is a lure that's helping the fish. Without reducing your catch rate, you're doing your part to reduce release mortality.
And that's one of Hoagie's goals. They don't just build fishy gear. They think long-term about the fishery. It's all part of their updated motto that they now live by. Quality for today, conservation for tomorrow. So find out more about the mission and, of course, this awesome new needlefish at HoagieLures.com. As we've talked about on past episodes of the podcast, the plastic swimmer is one of the most popular plugs that's found in just about every surfcaster's bag, and there are a ton of models to choose from. With its unique body shape and lip design producing a great darting and swimming action, the standout is the Swarter by Joe Baggs Tackle.
That's right, Toby. This plug is fully through wired and it's available in two sizes, the 6-inch 1-ounce model and the 7-inch 1.5-ounce model. It comes in a wide variety of traditional and modern fish-catching colors like bone, blurple, sand eel, and many more. The Swarter excels in a huge variety of surf fishing conditions, from back bays to inlets, and of course, the wide open surf. It's been proven to be a great plug on both the East and West Coast for a variety of species, but particularly the striped bass.
So head on over to joebagsoutdoors.com and grab some Swarters while you support a locally owned business. And while you're there, be sure to check out the annual limited edition colorway, as well as Joe's Swarter kits, specifically tailored to meet a variety of surf fishing scenarios.
So my next product is very related to the first product, and I didn't actually plan this exactly. I've had this product sitting aside for this specific segment of the podcast for a while now. But I felt like I wanted to bring up the Simms boots because that's something that maybe you would want to purchase going into your season. But I have been using this season the Corker's Eye Drain socks, the wader socks. I was using them before I got the Simms boots. I had integrated them into my system using the wetsuit booties, but then I used them all along with the Simms as well. I have had various other wader socks, and for those who don't know, wader socks are generally used when you're wet wading. So they take the place of the stocking boot of your waders. So if you use stocking foot waders, if you don't want to use the waders, you use these to take up the space in your boot. That's basically the short of it. They come in a variety of different thicknesses, and I've had a bunch of different brands. They don't hold up very well for me. I tend to wear through the heels pretty quickly. In a season, I'll wear right through the heel of them. And I don't know exactly why, because I don't have that trouble with stocking foot waders. I say I don't know why, but I think I know why now. Because the ones I've been using up to this point have always been 1 to 2 millimeters in that range thickness. These Corker eye drains are 3.5. And the difference that has made in how the boot fits, the comfort, the cushioning on my foot, and the warmth has been huge. And these things have been so rugged, they look absolutely 100% brand new after a year's worth of using them. I think that they are an unbelievably excellent value. I think that they are extremely rugged. And again, I've used Sims, I think I had some Orvises, and I've had some other brands as well that are not really even designed by waiter companies. And these Corker ones, man, they have just been so good. They're so warm. They're super soft. They're really flexible. Highly, highly recommended. And if you use them together with the Sims flyweight boot, match made in heaven. Cannot recommend them highly enough. Just fantastic.
Nice. I might have to check those out because I definitely have new wading socks on my winter list. So
there you go.
Sure.
Yeah,
good to hear that. It is interesting the durability too, because I blow through mine. That's the thing. My toes tear through. I don't know why.
Interesting. Well, you know how much mileage I put on stuff and how hard I am. They look brand new. Absolutely brand new. So
my next product is not. It's not in the classic range, but it's not something that's brand new. It's something I've actually been working on a couple of seasons now, but I'm at the point where I am 100% confident in it. It's the BKK Titan Rider swim bait hooks.
Yes. Yes.
There's a lot of you out there, I'm sure, that are already pretty familiar with these things. I remember first seeing this video. I think it was on YouTube where the guy, it was the first person I saw had anywhere from like an 8.0 to like an 18-aught, and I was amazed that there was a swim bait hook that was in this range, and this guy was raving about it, and I think it was Tackle Advisor.
It was the Tackle Advisor guy. He had a 20.0, which you can get still. Yeah.
Which is cuckoo. So but at that point you could only import them. From Asia where they were being made. And then recently, last couple of years, they finally started getting them in here. There's a BKK Hooks America division now, so we can buy them pretty regularly. So when that happened, that's when I jumped in on them. For me, their usage is primarily with big soft plastics, weightless. They make a weighted version. I don't have a need for that for what I'm doing right now. So for instance, like a 12-inch Sluggo, that big, meaty chunk of rubber that looks like an eel. The 10.0 size is absolutely perfect for me. I've tried the 12.0. I even tried the 14s and 16s. It was just too much. There was no benefit that I found that I was afforded by the bigger sizes. It's still the same gauge wire. It just added extra weight. For that 12-inch Sluggo, the 10.0 is perfect. The only modification that I do to these things is the screw eye that comes with them. I don't really like it because I'm kind of anal about wanting to get that screw eye dead center through. Whether it actually matters, I don't know when you're fishing the way that I'm fishing, kind of slower method. So I take the screw eye that comes with it and I swap it out for the owner centering pin spring. And as the name says, it's got a center pin with the coil around it. So for my clumsy fingers, it's much easier to get it rigged true. It's just long enough in that case then to hold on to the rubber, but not like impede a hook set. Because there's some bigger screw eyes, that are like 3/4 an inch long.
Yeah, I have some of those. You can get them at Amazon.
When you're using it with a swim bait, it kind of like it puts all metal from the eye to the point, so you're kind of blocking your hook set.
That's
so
right.
I found no problems whatsoever with just a size large on those center pin rings. But these BKK Titan Riders, the 10.0, like I said, on the bigger soft plastics, I've thrown it on the gravity tackle eels. Adds a little bit more weight than I'd like to some degree on those. The Joe Bags Block Island eels, it works really well. The bigger hoagies, it works well. So it's that 10.0 is perfect. And I mean, I've had fish over 40 pounds on in the surf without any concerns. Whereas some of the other swim bait hooks that we had in the past that we brought over from the freshwater side had a tendency to deflect, to
That's
break.
Right. That's right.
These don't really do that. And whatever this coating is they have on it is not perfect for corrosion, but it is far better than your standard black nickel hook coating. So the BKK Titan Riders and the 10.0.
I don't want to say too much because I could do several podcasts on this product because someone's going to call me out on this. They're going to say, yeah, but what about that thing you talked about? But I will say that in the last 5 years, this is my favorite product in the surf. And potentially my favorite fishing product because it has really changed the way I fish. And it's something that I wished I had that didn't exist before this came out. There was the Beast, the Owner Beast, and the Owner Beast has all kinds of problems. The shape of it deflects. And the Titan does not, because of the shape and because of the metal they use, the length of the point, all kinds of stuff about it. It's so much better, like you were getting to. If you have a use for this and you're not using it, and maybe 10.0 is too big. Maybe you do something where you need it smaller. Right, Toby? I mean, maybe there's something somebody's using and need it smaller.
Yeah, it works in the smaller size, certainly. But that 10.0 is what I use for most of my stuff.
Exactly. But if you do, get rid of whatever else you're using the smaller size, because it's better for that too, period. So... And there are certain applications where I use even the much bigger sizes. So highly, highly recommended. I'm with you. I wish I'd thought of it. I wish I had thought to recommend this. So great recommendation. I wish that the new Mustad Alpha points came in those big sizes. Yeah. Because, then we'd have a real battle, but they do not. And the 8.0 is really only barely big enough for a 9-inch Sluggo or like a 7.5-inch Hoagie Original, that kind of size stuff. It's not good for the big stuff. Yeah. So, all right. So now we're to the classics. Yep. You know, a brand that I'm surprised doesn't get more play in the surf, and it is well known specifically because it's so well known for tuna, is Mad Mantis. Mad Mantis, small company, make some weird lures. They make some weird stuff. Definitely. Their top water, walk the dog, spook is a little bit weird. Some of their poppers are kind of weird. They make the Quake, which is weird. It's kind of its own thing. But the weirdest thing that they make the Quigley, I think is what it's called, which is even weirder. And I have not had any success with that. I'm not saying you can't, but I have not had a chance to really integrate that into my repertoire. But the Mad Mantis duck has become a essential for me. It lived in my bag, in my pouch, next to my leader wallet, as a backup all season long. It never, ever came out of my bag. It can do things that no other plug, except for maybe the Super Strike Little Neck, is close. It can do something that no other plug can do. It can cast super far. You can fish it shallow, surface, mid-column. Maybe it's about as far as you're going to get with it. But unlike the Super Strike Little Neck Popper, which is a popper, this is a swimming plug. And it swims so much easier than the Little Neck. But otherwise, if you're someone who uses the Little Neck Popper as a swimmer at night, and you're using it for the casting distance, you're trying to punch it or whatever, this plug is better. This plug is better for that. End of story. And I will die on my sword for this. I'll stand my ground on this. I really think that I love the Little Neck Popper from Super Strike. It is an essential plug that every surf angler should have. If you're using it as a popper, yes. If you're using it as a swimmer, the Mad Mantis is superior now. I really think so. And I found that it didn't matter what the conditions were. I could swim it in current. I could swim it in waves. I could swim it in crosswind. It's very versatile. And when you need to just get something out there that swims, it's there for you. And so can't recommend it highly enough. Extremely tough. Takes all kinds of different hook configurations. And they last really, really well. They're pretty cheap. They're very affordable. So.
Now, what size is that? I can't remember if you.
So they make a couple different sizes. He makes a couple different sizes. There's a really small one, which is okay, but I like the big one. It's 3 ounces, I believe. It's the largest size they make. So, and I carried the bronzy copper color the whole season because it's kind of brown, and I like the brown plug. So
nice.
Yeah.
All right. For my classic, this one's been around for a while. It's a very divisive topic, but it's something that I live by in the surf. Yeah, it is what I would say, because you said earlier you don't know if there's a perfect braid. For me, there is a perfect braid.
I knew you were going to say this.
And it is Berkeley Fireline Original. And I'll say it again, for my purposes, fishing in the surf around rocks, it is the perfect braid. I run the 30 pound. I've run the lighter 20 in a light tackle setup. It had all the same benefits, but it's the 30 that really steps up. And 30 is not accurate. this is not 30-pound braid. It's got the same thickness, if not even thicker, than your average 50-pound.
That's right.
It's this stuff is like cable strength, especially around rocks. And that's where it really becomes my perfect braid for fishing the surf, the way I do primarily around rocks. It's got sort of this aura about it that it's better on the rocks. It's more durable. I've actually tested it where I take braid and scrape it and rub it on rocks and then do the same thing with the Fireline. I mean, not as scientific where I'm, testing exactly the same weight, but it just lasts in the rocks. I've had fish drag through the rocks, come back when I had broken off on a whole bunch of other different types of braid over the years. Now, a lot of people do not like the Fireline because when you first put it on, when you feel it straight out of the package, still on the spool, it's stiff. I mean, you can actually take a few inches of it and hold it out, and it's rigid enough where it will stay straight out from your hand. It is not that super soft, limp braid. Again, what I like about it, I like that it's got that stiffness. In your first outing or two, it feels a little weird in hand. It just starts to break down that coating on it, and then it's great from that point forward. And no real negatives out the gate. I cast fine with it. Get plenty of casting distance. It doesn't get any less durable over time when it loses that coating. It does feel just a little bit better. And it's far superior in, let's say, shedding wind knots. I've found it's not impossible. I've had a couple wind knots over the years on it, but that's what it is. It's a couple over the years. Where with some other braids, I've had a couple wind knots and a couple casts.
It's probably helped because it is stiffer and it is thicker, and both of those things help you.
Yep. Now, again, is it perhaps the longest distance casting braid? Initially, no. But I actually had an occurrence a couple of years back when I was testing a surf combo by a company that wanted to have a matched rod, reel, and braid. And they were pitching it as the greatest casting setup that was going to be hitting the surf, blah, blah, blah. So I did some casts in a dry field with that combo. And then I happened to have my setup, which was a heavy 11-foot surf rod and, my surf setup with the braid on it, and I outcast it. And the guy from the company said, no, there's no way. I let him try it. It wasn't just casting, ability at the time. So I think it casts plenty fun. I've never been like, the reason I'm not reaching the fish is because I'm throwing Fireline. And even if I did lose a little distance, if I want to concede maybe a couple percentage off of my cast, I will take 100 times out of 100 the durability of this thing in and around the rock. So the 30-pound Berkley Fireline is, I'll go as far as to say, the best braid for fishing around the rocks in the surf.
This has been a weekly edition of the Surfcast Podcast. You can find out more about the podcast at surfcastpodcast.com, or definitely check us out on social media, Facebook, Instagram, at the Surfcast Podcast.